NBA exec around the NBA are speculating about the Chicago Bulls, believing they are unlikely to retain both Josh Giddey and Coby White moving into the 2025-26 season. Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it down, but you got to hear the music first.
Cognac. Gang.
Shot Bulls podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down for another episode over here on Shot Bulls podcast. So if you're tuned in with me today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Now, the latest news is coming from my man's Matt Moore out of HP Basketball, and he's reporting some of the things that he's been hearing around the NBA. He does make it clear he does not have a lot of sources, but he does have a few important people around the league that he has communication with. So you take it for what it is. Now, he went out there and said, this is outside speculative, but two different East personnel figures believe that the Chicago Bulls are unlikely to retain both Josh Giddey and Coby White. If Giddey gets locked in, White could be moved. I'm skeptical of that idea because that sounds like a radical concept for the Bulls, and that doesn't sound like them. Saving money sounds like them, but not like this. So y'all can go ahead and take it for what it is. And I think that is definitely an interesting conversation to have because when you look at both guys and how they play basketball, there was some challenges with both guys. You will see on some nights to where Coby White have it going and Josh Giddey didn't have the strongest performance. You will see where Josh Giddey had a strong performance and Coby White did not have the strongest performance. So it's definitely a conversation and something that's going to continue to come up simply because the Chicago Bulls are now trying to move into a new iteration of their basketball team. They're already believed to be now in that second transitional phase with a new team, from at least from the words of Arturas Karnisovas. Definitely believing that the first iteration of the team was your Zach LaVine, your DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, etc. And now you're moving on to Josh Giddey, Monty Buzelis, and what many of us believe will be a part of that, at least for this season, is Coby White. But if you remember, there was some extension talks that came out in regards to about Coby White, and it was even asked at the end of the season press conference where they had conversations. And to be quite frank with you, Coby White, his best bet is to sit out and wait and play this last season under play the last year of his current deal at $11 million and then go out and potentially in 2026 to gain more money because the Chicago Bulls just can't offer him, a crazy contract in that range of a $30 million deal based on the rules that's around the NBA and how you can structure these deals. So it's definitely something that the Chicago Bulls are going to have to come to terms with simply because of the money. It's going to be something you can go out there offer Coby White that contract, but I think that the total value is only going to be like 20 something per year or something like that for Coby White. So it's definitely something that you have to consider. And then you look at Coby White's value. What does it necessarily look like? Is Coby White worth a first round pick that you can get in return? Are you more so sold on the picks that you could potentially get for Coby White? Do you believe that you can go out there and get draft picks along with a said player that you could potentially bring in and help the Chicago Bulls? Or do you look at that said player as a developmental piece? So it's definitely a lot of conversations to have with it. But I did speak on the moment you trade Josh Giddey and have Alex Caruso linked to that trade without any additional capital coming your way, whether that was with players or assets, and we know that they didn't get any assets in that trade. It was a straight up player for player trade. In that moment, I came out and said, if you make that trade, you have to have Josh Giddey be a part of your future. And I think that's where the Chicago Bulls are going to land. I think that's the way that they're going to move. They're going to absolutely look at Josh Giddey and say, here's the money. That's just my personal opinion. They could very well pivot, but I don't think you let a guy like Alex Caruso go to the Oklahoma City Thunder without having the foresight of keeping Josh Giddey around for years and years to come. And I also like what Josh Giddey was able to put together on that back half of last season. Definitely started it off a little rough. Definitely had his people and his critics, including myself, who did not like what they saw. But if we keeping it a buck, he did turn things around, and that's Josh Giddey. He turned things around for the better towards the end of the season. Now you want to go out there with the guy only being 22 years old. You want to see what else can he potentially bring to this team. And we also heard different things about the blueprint that the Chicago Bulls are pretty much looking at, and that's the Indiana Pacers blueprint. We're gonna have a really good point guard, and then we're gonna have a bunch of different pieces around him, and not necessarily have to depend on one particular guy, but we can depend on a number of guys to go out there and get the job done. Hence why the Indiana Pacers are now in the finals, simply because the way that they play, the way that they take care of the basketball, how they defend, and how they execute, along with how the point guard performs. Can Josh Giddey get to that level? Possibly. I think it's still early to make that determination. So we shall see where that lands. And I'm not saying that the Chicago Bulls absolutely have to trade Coby White, but we can't sit up here and act like that's not a part of the conversation on how the Chicago Bulls plan to move. It is being reported that the Houston Rockets, I believe they have the 10th pick. They're willing to get off that pick if they can get something in return. I don't necessarily know if the Chicago Bulls want to entertain that. I'm not making that, I'm not putting that on wax, but I am just kind of looking around to see where the Chicago Bulls can go with this, if that's the way that they want to move. Now, I personally believe that you allow these two guys to run on, run together. But I can't sit here and ignore that there are going to be some other opportunities around here, and that I want the Chicago Bulls to get better. Now, my question is, does moving Coby White now push the Chicago Bulls 2 steps back or a step back if you can't find a player to replace him with that fits the team much better? Because we got to keep in mind, throughout all these years, Coby White is constantly changing his role, coming in as a starter, then going to the bench, then coming back in as a starter, then being the primary point guard, now moving to the 2 guard. Like, when are we going to allow Coby White to have some consistency as a basketball player on the Chicago Bulls? That's why it might be up for discussion. It might be on the table for potentially moving off of him and allowing him to have a change of scenery to where that team can figure out what his role is. I would like for the Chicago Bulls to figure it out. But again, it's not our decision to come up with that determination. It's not our decision to make. We just have to see if the Chicago Bulls are trying their best to put the best product on the basketball floor. And necessarily, I don't know what it's going to be within the next few weeks or the next few months before we get into, training camp, preseason, and the season. But it's very, very interesting to hear things like this, simply because we already knew it was kind of on the table, because you can't keep everybody. Yeah, I mean, you can try, but a lot of teams are going to avoid that second apron. And if you start handing out contracts and you got to re-up, and you allow Coby White to just kind of, go through the 2025 season, and he walks in 26, that's going to be another thing we start to hit the front office with. It's going to be another thing we start to hit the front office with, because the price for Coby White is only going to go up. You know what I'm saying? The price for Coby White is only going to go up if he continues to take steps forward in his game. He does have some issues in that regard, to where there was some not personal things, but some basketball things. I was like, bro, you at some point, you got to show me who the hell you are when it matters. And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Chicago Bulls navigate all this, because I believe that right now you're looking at a situation to where Josh Giddey is on it, is looking like he's going to be a part of the future. Montes Buzelis is absolutely a part of the future. But then after that, I don't think anybody else is safe. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think anybody else outside of those 2 guys are safe. And the Chicago Bulls need to be trying to move and take steps forward so we can see a team that's in the playoffs and then going in, retooling some things. Now let's get to the second round. Now let's get to the third round. Then let's get back to the finals. And I think that when it comes to it, we can't just be locked on the people that we love. Sometimes it's hard to see faces go, even if we don't want to see those faces go. But we all about winning over here. And the Chicago Bulls, within the last 4 or 5 seasons, they're an average team. The record even says it. I think I seen something and ran across something to where the Chicago Bulls are 164 or 164 in their last 4 or 5 seasons or something like that, which is crazy. Just hella mid. The definition of mid, right? So, yeah, we take it for what it is. We'll see what happens. Again, it's just speculation. But at the end of the day, it does call for some type of conversation because we know that this could eventually be a reality. It could be a reality because the Chicago Bulls can't offer Coby White a substantial contract that's going to make sense for him. Hence why, even if they went to the table right now, I would expect him to reject the offer and wait to 2026 to where he can really earn some money if he has earned that money. So tough decisions for this front office, tough decisions and things that we're going to be sitting here watching and waiting on. But at the end of the day, we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens. If I believe they should retain both of them. But again, I understand the other side of the discussion of if we keep Josh Giddey, let's see what's out there for Coby White. Simply because, last point, we saw DeMar DeRozan go off and have an MVP caliber season, became all NBA. A lot of people believe at that moment when his value was the highest, you should have got up off of him. Then when guys came calling for Andre Drummond for those 2 second-round picks, many believe, including myself, they should have got up off of him. Then we heard some things that Lonzo Ball was being offered for a first-round pick. A lot of us, including myself, was like, you should have came up off of it. So if the Chicago Bulls come up off Coby White early, do we sit there and castigate the Chicago Bulls for finally doing something before it was too late, quote unquote? We'll see. But that's it for me, y'all, for this episode. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Before y'all get up out of here, let me know your comments, your thoughts, and your concerns below. Let's chop it up. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank y'all so much. Make sure y'all always see red, and y'all already know. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one, for sure.
Cognac.